What is up, you guys? My name is Roman, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. And today I'm going to be watching and reacting to Doctor Who 10 ways, 10 ways? Yeah, 10 ways to fix the Billie Piper cliffhanger by Who Culture or WhoCulture.com. But yeah, no, Who Culture. But yeah, this is one of their this is like their latest video. It's basically on, I guess, how to resolve or fix the Billie Piper situation, as the title suggests, where, the cliffhanger shows spoilers, but the cliffhanger shows of the most recent season of Doctor Who shows um, um, Ncuti Gatwa's doctor apparently regenerate into Billie Piper. But yeah, without any, make sure you go subscribe to Who Culture. I will link them below in the description. And without any further ado, let's lock in. By the way, that's my new saying. Let's lock in.
We have a lot of questions about Doctor Who's
Yep.
future. But arguably one of the biggest questions we have right now is how in the hell are they going to fix this?
Oh yeah, especially since, and I forgot to mention also, how are they going to fix it, especially since especially since the Christmas special that was supposed to happen this Christmas got canceled. So that's great.
Well, we don't know the actual answer to those questions, but we do have a few suggestions on how they could possibly fix it. So let's go through them, shall we? So the first and probably more likely outcome in this situation is that they just ignore it forever. It just gets
Ignore it forever.
brushed under the carpet and is never ever mentioned again. We meet the next Doctor, we meet a new incarnation entirely.
I don't know how I feel about that. I think you still need explanation for it.
And there is no explanation ever. A similar situation, I guess, to 2005, where Christopher Eccleston turns up in this new era of Doctor Who, this revival of Doctor Who, and we have, at that point in time, no explanation as to how we went from Paul McGann in the TV movie to Christopher Eccleston. Now, the only difference here is that
But like I mean, I don't know how I feel about no explanation. I think you still have the explanation, and even if they do, it would suck that it would be years later, but I would at least like to see it, like maybe similar to how the War Doctor came in, but I don't know.
in this scenario, we never get any sort of explanation, whereas obviously we know that later on down the line, we did get an explanation for Christopher Eccleston. We had the War Doctor filling that gap.
What? That's bull. I don't agree with that.
Between 8 and 9. In this scenario, though, that never happens. We literally never ever hear about this scenario ever again, and we just forget about it. Another option
I would not. Oh.
is that we do a similar thing to the War Doctor. So we ignore it for now, but at some point in the new era, later down the line, we do get an explanation.
Yeah, see, I like that. That's better. That's what I was talking about and hoping you would say, but yeah. So that makes more sense to me cuz you can't just ignore something big, you know? I feel like they need to pull it off whenever Doctor Who returns. Hopefully they will. Eventually when Doctor Who does return, hopefully we will get an explanation.
For example, the 20th Doctor remarks casually at some point that they once got stuck in the form of a former companion for a little while before they found their new face. Something as simple as that could happen, or we could have a proper story-based explanation for it in a similar way to how we had the explanation of the 12th Doctor looking like Caecilius. It's not a whole episode in its own right, it doesn't become a major plot point.
Oh, right.
Or a major story, but it does become something that's mentioned and is relevant to a specific character moment or a specific episode of Doctor Who,
right,
but isn't the sole arc of an episode. Or we do have a Billie Piper focused story later on down the line, like the War Doctor. You know what? Let's just roll Billie Piper and David Tennant out for the 70th anniversary, and that will be the story that explains how in the hell Ncuti Gatwa regenerated into Billie Piper.
Yeah, let's roll them out of the retirement home.
That's what they're going to do, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
We all know that there was a different ending originally to the
Restate the original ending. Oh.
reality war. So one option is that we just reinstate that original season 2 ending. If you aren't familiar with it, basically before it was decided that Ncuti Gatwa was going to be leaving, the ending to the reality war was very different. It kind of got to the point where they were all back at unit, everyone had saved the day, and rather than going back to bring back Poppy and all of that whole kind of last 10 minutes of the episode, they just have a party at unit. We've seen an image of that scene, and then the cliffhanger, the ending of that episode would have seen, or as the rumors go, would have seen Susan with baby Poppy kind of watching on the sidelines, watching the doctor. And I believe, again, rumor has it, that it would have ended with Susan saying to Poppy, "Come on, mum," something like that. So it was going to be an ending.
What? You're saying Poppy was Susan's mom?
That obviously teased more of Susan, more of Poppy, that whole relationship with the
wait,
dog. Rumor has it that it would have ended with Susan saying to Poppy, "Come on, mum," something
Okay, so it was...
like that.
Okay.
So it was
Whatever.
going to be an ending that obviously teased more of Susan, more of Poppy, that whole relationship with the doctor. But obviously because...
I think I would have preferred that ending over what we got. It's a shame that didn't happen, and Ncuti had to leave so soon, and just... Yeah, it sucked, but even that has its flaws, because I remember hearing about that before with Susan, with the ending with Susan watching over the doctor, but I don't remember hearing that Poppy was in it, but I wouldn't want that either, because I'm not a fan of Poppy. I mean, don't get me wrong, she's cute, but just not my cup of tea, and the fact that they just made her like an alternative, I don't know, like a weird timeline where the doctor has a kid with his companion, just not something I would want to see. I'm not against the doctor being a parent at all, but he's been a father before, and has, and we've even seen some of his kids, like Jenny, for example, but I don't know, it just doesn't really work out for me. But still, I would have preferred a much better ending than what we got with the doctor going back for Poppy and regenerating because he broke reality. Ugh.
Ncuti Gatwa decided to leave, the ending was completely changed. And we got the regeneration into Billie Piper instead. So one of the options is just take off the replaced ending that we did have and put that original ending back onto the episode. And the thing is, the BBC is not actually shy about re-editing previous episodes. You know, we've had colorizations of classic stories, new CGI put into classic stories, and even if we want to look more recently and less about story, but just re-editing episodes for whatever reason, Fear Her was taken off of BBC iPlayer for ages, just so they could replace the voice of Hugh Edwards. Now that...
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember hearing about that in other Who Culture videos that I didn't react to, but like I watched in my own time.
was a whole different situation, but the point still stands that they re-edited the episode years after it was released. So there's nothing to suggest that they couldn't go back, take off that ending, and put the original one back on. The only issue I do see with that is that obviously that episode didn't then end with a regeneration. So it wouldn't just be a case of swapping those endings, because then you still have the question of, well then, how do we get to the regeneration situation? Or do we just...
Well, maybe you could say like it was just, that was just an alternate thing or an imagination in the doctor's head, and that similar to how like, and even though that's similar to how there was like this rumor that all the stuff that happened after the Capaldi era was just a dream that the 12th Doctor was having, and he's still trying to regenerate and while unconscious, that sort of thing. But I don't believe in that theory, but I do think it would kind of work for Ncuti Gatwa, maybe, but I don't know, that's just me.
Just not? Do we just go like we did from the TV movie to Christopher Eccleston, where there was no regeneration in between, and it didn't really matter? We just go from one Doctor to a new one, and we just never know, or well, we eventually know, but at that point, we don't really know what happened in between. Also, I don't think it would be likely that they would do this. It kind of feels like maybe it would be an admission of all the drama and issues that they had, and I don't think they'd want to highlight that or do that. They
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
still want us to believe that the ending we
Yeah, I'm still going with the fact that they explain it. I'm no, not the fact. I'm still going with the previous entry where or suggestion where they explain it eventually.
got was the only ending there ever was. Otherwise, they would have released that ending as like a little bonus or whatever for us to all see. But no one at the BBC has kind of really come out and gone, yeah, that was the ending. It's all through kind of external sources, reliable sources, but
Yeah, and I would have loved to see. I really hope one day that they do release that deleted party ending scene from the reality war online or something, because otherwise it's just lost media and that sucks.
no one at the BBC has just put their hands up and gone, do you know what? Yeah, that was the original ending. Here, want to see it? So another option is that the new era.
Well, I would want that though. Like, because like if you have all these other deleted scenes, why not that? It just I I'm sorry, but I would love. I just wish they would release it online, but sadly, I don't think that will happen. But I would still hope that one day they would.
Begins with a brief explanation of that situation and then quickly moves on from it. So maybe we open that episode of the new era, the first episode of the new era, with maybe a voiceover or a flashback, some sort of narration that very quickly kind of explains what happened in that situation, then moves on to a new story away from Billie Piper. Maybe something similar to the opening of The Star Beast, but much better looking than what we got at the beginning of The Star Beast. Or, at the
I actually don't mind that. Like, I know people say, "Oh, it looks like oh, it looks bad because why is he just like floating in space?" I think it works because I don't know, just like it kind of just like shows like not really like the magic of the show, but just like just like this cool like sci-fi um vibe where like because it's not like he's actually standing in space. It's like this is a dream that um David Tennant. It's a dream that the 14th Doctor is having. You know, that's just how I see it. But yeah,
Or, at the beginning of the TV movie, there was a kind of narration where the Doctor explains what happened to the Master and kind of sets the story, sets the setting of where we're going to then jump on from. Out of the options that I've listed so far, this one seems maybe the most likely. It's difficult, isn't it? Because you want a new era
I would say this is the second most likely.
to kind of have that chance to do a fresh start, do their thing. But it also feels like you've made this mess now, and just ignoring it feels like, yes, the easy way out, but us fans don't like it when things are left untidy. You get the gist though, just basically a quick explanation and then move on to the new era and ignore that. Equally, they could retcon it. That could very, very much happen. In fact, it could be retconned in so many different ways. I mean, this is Doctor Who, so, they
I hold on. I totally forget. I mean, I'm familiar with like I'm I know like I'm good at words, but like I'm not familiar with the word retcon. Let me look it up for a second. Okay, so according to what I got, it says it might mean like story's overview explained in a new to change an established fact in the story's plot line. No, just to change an established fact for a new storyline, something like that. That's what I read. But okay, that makes sense.
could just say that the final moments of the reality war took place in another universe. We know that there are different universes, multiple realities in the world of Doctor Who. They could just say that this Billie Piper timeline was just one of many timelines. We've had this whole bi-generation thing where there's different, the Doctors have split and there's
Yeah, and Russell T Davies said that caused all the past Doctors to biogenerate or something like that.
versions of the Doctors all over the place. So, anything is possible in sci-fi. Like, it could very easily just be like, yeah, that did happen, but not in our reality. You know, the whole episode is the reality war, so it's very easy for them to just say, yeah, that wasn't the real reality. Also, we're living in the age of literally the multiverse saga of the MCU, so, you know, people are
That's right.
very much more attuned to that kind of way of thinking and storytelling now, which on the one hand makes it more understandable and graspable for the audience, but on the other hand makes it really predictable and a little bit like, oh, we went down that route, did we? I don't know if they could come up with something interesting, but I feel like they could potentially just say, yeah, that did happen, but that was in a parallel universe, or that was in a different reality, you know? They could also do the obvious thing, which I think
Yeah, I do know.
a lot of people have maybe suggested could have been what they did do if we did get the Christmas special and Billie Piper wasn't going to be there, was to basically say that Billie Piper's face appearing was like mid-regeneration and the actual Doctor actually arrived like a few seconds after that and we just didn't see it happening. It was just a quick little jump to her trying to choose some faces or something like that.
But then how would that happen? I mean, I guess maybe like the TARDIS, like it showed a flash of her face or something, or just I don't know.
I don't know what's better, you know, I don't know whether it's better to just ignore it or whether to retcon it.
Me neither.
There's pros and cons on both sides. I think ignoring it leaves dangling threads that would bug me. Retconning it also feels like a bit of a cheat. They've really dug themselves a hole here, and I don't really know how they're going to get themselves out of it. Whatever they do, I don't think everyone will be happy about it. So the other thing they can do is just leave it to Big Finish. And this is quite a realistic
Ah, that's cool.
option, to be honest with you.
If you guys don't know, Big Finish is this like audiobook company. They're an app and they release audio stories where like you there's no visual but like you hear the audio of stuff like audio stories, like radio plays basically, like audio dramas and especially for Doctor Who, they release a lot. And although you have to pay for it, there are options to listen to it for free I listen to it. I've been listening to some for free on Spotify, and they're amazing. So yeah, I think Give Big Finish could give it a shot.
I think this is likely to happen. Big Finish has done a lot of work with Billie Piper already, and you just know that Big Finish are just waiting in the sidelines until they're given permission to run with this storyline. And to be honest, you know, arguably the purpose of Big Finish is to fill those gaps that are there in the TV show. You know, filling in the gaps that you don't have time to fill on TV or just aren't.
Yeah, like what happened with the adventures of 13 and Yaz on their own after season 12 and before Flux.
Possible to fill on TV. I mean, look at all the River Song stories that have been told through Big Finish. So much potential there that wasn't used on screen and has been taken by Big Finish and created entire series of stories filling in the gaps of what River does when the Doctor's not around, or, you know, just, you know, building her character even more. This could, you know, be the potential for a whole new series exploring the adventures of this Doctor that we never got to explore on screen. I guess then that works out well on the TV side. It means that the TV show can just kind of ignore it while fans still get some sort of answer, which I guess is best of both worlds, but at the same time, some fans don't really accept Big Finish as canon. Lines get a little bit blurred when, you know, for example, the 8th Doctor has loads of stories with Big Finish, and people were like, well, does that really count? But then when he did appear in his minisode before the 50th special, he mentioned names of companions that were only from Big Finish. So does that kind of bring all of that into canon, in which case is the rest of Big Finish all part of canon? So
I would say it's a mix of both. Like I would say it depends on which story it is, but like I think like some Big Finish audios are canon and some aren't. I think that's how it works.
there's some blurred lines, but I guess it could be a good way
How it should work.
of giving us an answer while also not muddying the waters anymore on screen. You know, if not Big Finish, there are other things as well, comics, novels, all these different kind of other ways of telling these stories. And I think, you know, this is a good way to kind of maybe we combine a couple of these suggestions into one. You know, like, for example, my first option was ignore it entirely. And in doing it with Big Finish, the show could ignore it entirely and Big Finish could tell the stories as well. So
That actually sounds good. It's like they're not because like they're not ignoring entirely. They're just telling it through another source of media. That definitely sounds a lot better than the first option.
I reckon Big Finish, regardless of what happens, Big Finish will be telling some stories about this Doctor, because it's just dangling there with so much potential.
If she...
So another option...
True, but wait.
As well. So I reckon Big Finish, regardless of what happens, Big Finish will be telling some stories about this Doctor, because it's just dangling there with so much potential.
If she's the Doctor, true, because we don't really know, but we don't really know if this is the Doctor or not. Like, I'm actually 98% sure, well, maybe, I'm like at least 75% sure, 75-80, that it's either Rose or the Bad Wolf. I think it's Rose. They just swap bodies. I think that's how it works. I think that's how it should be, actually.
So another option, and quite honestly the option I think that they should have just gone with
Edit the ending.
Before this all became a big mess in the first place, is just edit the ending. Chop Billie Piper's face appearing at the very end out of the episode, and just end the episode with Ncuti Gatwa regenerating and fading to black rather than fading to the shot of Billie Piper's face.
I remember her saying that that's what she wanted for it. Like, it was best. She thought it would be better if they would do that. I can see that, but I think no, because even if you don't know the show's future, I think you still gotta leave it open-ended.
Simple. Presumably this is how the episode was going to end before they managed to convince Billie Piper to step in and film that last bit. But we all know that that was a very, very last-minute addition. So I would assume that originally the plan before they had someone for him to regenerate into was for it to just fade to black whilst he was regenerating, and we never saw who he regenerated into. That honestly should have been how the episode ended in the first place. But if we're trying to find a solution...
Yeah, I don't agree, but I see what you mean.
Now, just chop that last bit off. Just make it one of those Mandela effects where you can just gaslight everyone into thinking that it happened even though, or that it didn't happen. Just gaslight everyone.
Except it actually did happen. Like, you actually saw it. Because, like, Mandela effects, there are things that never happened, and just trick your mind into thinking that it was.
Everyone into thinking it didn't happen. Chop it off, and when everyone says, you remember that time when Ncuti Gatwa regenerated into Billie Piper? They go, no. Look at the ending. He doesn't regenerate into Billie Piper. And a whole generation of fans will be like, maybe that didn't happen, you know?
No, I think that's a little strange, and I wouldn't go for that as my first case, as if I was a writer or something.
Another option, which I think is highly unlikely, but is an option, is that they actually make a Billie Piper episode. You know, one of the most obvious ways to deal with this problem is to not ignore it entirely, but to actually make an episode with Billie Piper as the Doctor and give us an explanation for what this was.
Or just make it Rose Tyler, like that they swapped her and the Doctor swapped bodies somehow, and the Doctor's gone, and she has to find her or find him, or yeah, that's another thing about the Doctor. Don't assume his gender, but anyways, just like that they swapped bodies, and this is like you can make a short with like just Rose Tyler. That's what I would think could happen.
The new production team could start their new era, start the new series of Doctor Who with an episode with Billie Piper as the Doctor, you know, or maybe Bad Wolf could be roped in to kind of co-write or co-produce with them for that episode. You know, we've all been speculating that whoever picks up Doctor Who and moves forward with it is going to want a clean slate. We're going to have a reboot, a revival. We're going to kind of start fresh, start again. But we don't know that for certain. We have no idea what their plans are. And I guess it depends on who wins the tender, who wins it and starts, you know, if it's BBC Studios, there's nothing to suggest that they don't just continue it from where we left off. On the other side of that, you would assume that if they were going to just tell a Billie Piper story, they wouldn't have cancelled the Christmas special, because presumably that would have been that story. And the fact that they got rid of that tells me that maybe they didn't want to go down that route. And at the very least, if a full episode isn't possible, what about a minisode? What about...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Minisode. Like a charity special or something.
Out something like the one we had with Paul McGann, or we used to have them quite a lot actually, and they were kind of fun. Sometimes they were just like extras on the DVD box sets or different things like that. But it could have a children in need thing, or you
Yeah,
could
children in need.
have something that's released on YouTube, something to fill that gap that has Billie Piper. It isn't just a quick voiceover to explain what happened, a genuine like little story, a little minisode that answers that question. And then we can move on. I think a full episode is unlikely. I don't think that's the route they're going to go down. It's possible.
Me too. Yeah, but I mean, it's possible, but like now that the special is canceled, I doubt it.
Like I said, we don't know for certain that the new era is going to be a revival or a reboot. They may just continue from where they left off. Maybe we'll have Billie Piper as the Doctor for a whole series. We really don't know. But I don't think that's likely. And I guess in a similar vein, something that they could do is just a
I don't either.
direct continuation. Pick up the next episode right from where the reality war ended, and then just move on quickly. Similar to something I did suggest a little bit earlier, but you open the next episode with that wide shot of 15's regeneration. There may be a close-up of the faces changing in a similar way to how John Hurt's face kind of changed into Christopher Eccleston's without Christopher Eccleston really being there. That kind of let's fix this problem, we'll make a suggestion and then move on. And then it kind of morphs into the next Doctor as well. And then we move on from there.
I like that.
A little quip that says, just trying on some new faces. And then Bob's your uncle, carry on.
Kind of. I still think the first option or one other option, I forget what it was, are better than this, but I guess it's a possibility.
Move on. Let's get into the next Doctor. That is similar to something I suggested earlier, but this is kind of just like, don't change anything, just continue from where we left off. Go right from there. However, obviously, if we are assuming that they want a fresh start, a kind of clean slate, this would mean that starting the new era would have to be the end of the reality war. You'd open the new era with the ending of the reality war, which I guess isn't really a good starting point for a new
like you conclude the reality war arc. I think it's good though.
Era. That would mean that if you were trying to bring in new viewers, they'd be like, what's going on? Another option, which I really...
Yeah, but then again, it's like that. They've already tried that with the Russell T Davies 2 era, and it worked. Like with the opening of the Star Beast, they gave an explanation. They gave a quick recap of the Doctor and Donna's past stories and showed how, and just as context so new audiences know what's going on. So I imagine the same for this. Yeah, I don't really agree on that.
really don't like the idea of, and I really don't think is going to be the case, but
oh no, full reboot. I don't want that.
It is a possibility, is that we go for a full reboot. Full reboot of Doctor Who, going all the way back to the first Doctor. And rather than a revival, complete reboot. We'll have no lore headaches, we'll have no Billie Piper headaches, there'll be no need to explain anything at all because this is not connected to that. This is a completely new Doctor Who that is completely detached and not related or linked to anything that came before, and we're starting fresh. And this is the first Doctor. It's got nothing to do with that. In name only is it related to what came before. To be clear, I do not want that to be the case. I really don't think that is going to be the case, but if we're looking at
me neither, same here.
possible fixes for the mess they're in now, that's quite the solution, isn't it? Let's just completely cut ties and start again. I don't want that to be the case. I would much rather
me neither
revival similar to 2005 than a
yeah, keep reviving it.
Reboot, which would be completely unrelated, and I don't want that to be the case at all. It would be very clean, very much a clean slate, but let's not go down that route. There's plenty of other suggestions that I think could work just as well, but there's some of my suggestions. Let me know in the comments down below which one you think would be the best route for them to go down, or if you've got a suggestion that I didn't mention, then let me know your fix.
Okay, all right, this was an interesting video. I'm just gonna end it here, but yeah, it was cool listening to Ellie yap about what they could do with Doctor Who for when it returns, if it will return. But yeah, and I think I just agree with the first option, not the first option, the second option where they explain it later on, or just have a minisode of Billie Piper as whatever character she's playing. and just fix it there and continue from that point. But yeah, hope you. But yeah, I guess. But yeah, let me know. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Possibly share it with a friend. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button for more reaction videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye bye.